Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'm seeing people still dropping in here, so I might give it just a quick second before we get started. But yeah, today, breaking bandwidth, the viability of 5G is primary. Uh, Jonathan, is 5G primary? Or is
Yes,
it
it can
viable?
be.
Is
It
it
can
viable?
be.
Yeah, no, for sure. I just ruined my own joke there. All right, so yeah, I guess we can get started. um, cool. So introducing hosts. So I'm Mark Indelicato, the marketing manager here at RCN Technologies. I've got Jonathan Luttrell here with us, the regional account manager for RCN as well. What's your area, Jonathan?
I cover the Southeast,
Cool.
so Kentucky down to Florida and the coast over to the Mississippi.
Nice. Well, thanks for being with us today. Already seen some yeses pop up. That's awesome. So really makes sense, I think, to talk about the 5G spectrum layers. Begin with the coverage layer. So this is, you can kind of see, I don't think you guys can see my mouse here, but you can kind of see at the left side there, the coverage layer, how those waves are kind of further apart. So that's going to have a slower network speed, but it penetrates a lot further. So things like this are going to be really big in more rural areas, kind of things of that nature, right? So it's comparable to 4G speeds. Next one, you see the capacity layer. Those waves start to get a little tighter together. So speeds are picking up there. It can still penetrate through buildings, things like that, but maybe not quite as far as that coverage layer. And then you got the high capacity layer, which are really close together. You know, at the furthest end of that spectrum, you can hold up a sheet of paper and block the signal, but that's some of the blazing fast internet that you've seen from 5G. But anything to add to this,
No,
Jonathan?
that perfectly covers it. You really want that coverage area, like you said, in those rural areas.
Yeah.
Everybody kind of thinks, 5G is always going to be those fast speeds, and if it's not in my area, on my phone, then I don't get it. That's the benefits of having that coverage layer, is being able to reach out a little bit further
Mhm.
and being able to capture that signal.
Yeah, and something different from 4G too is you can almost have different strategies for each of these layers, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you're a carrier. I mean, you guys already have your strategies, but high capacity. You see that at some of the NFL games and
Mm-hmm.
things like that, where they'll have hundreds or thousands of nodes kind of pointing all over the place to get as much coverage as possible, and it's just crazy fast and can handle the capacity of those crowds versus coverage layer on the left, like being out in farms and
Exactly.
really rural areas, things like that. But with that being said, let's skip on here. A timeline. So 2017, if we go back pre-pandemic days. So carriers began experimenting with 5G fixed wireless access as a wired broadband replacement. 2019, the first 5G networks went online. 2020, carriers began rolling out low band. Then this year, mid band 5G clearance from the FAA, which we'll talk about here. But crazy that it really just started. The experimentations in 2017 does not feel
Yeah.
like that long ago, but that's wild.
No, in terms of technology, that's still pretty far off at the
Yeah,
same coin.
right. Yeah, very very strange space. Yeah, infrastructure growth. So, what's your take on the whole FAA issue earlier in the year?
I understand the concerns. Anytime you introduce a new technology, especially in the spectrums, interfering with any of your current avionics equipment,
Mm-hmm.
carrying a couple hundred people on a plane, you want to make sure everything is in working order properly and nothing gets interference.
Yeah, I mean,
So
basically,
taking your time on that, I definitely get it, but glad
yeah,
to see we're getting out of the thick of that.
right. I mean, you can see, you can kind of read there on this side what it was, but basically, the carriers were getting ready to roll out 5G mid-band. The FAA says, "Whoa, this is messing with our flight equipment." There's a whole big back and forth. Um, I want to say a lot of this was already available in Europe and didn't seem to have any issues. So, who knows what some of the issues with that were, or if it was more precautionary, or what the deal is. But from that point, it did roll out. They got past that. They figured it out, and now 5G is available to over 100 million people at this point. Probably more than that because it changes every day. We were talking about this earlier. We were looking just like, man, are these, we've got a map up in here and it's like, hey, is it up to date? Or it changes every day. It's just growing that fast, right? But Verizon, T-Mobile, AT&T, US Cellular could probably be in there too. So a lot of 5G coming up really quick. Here's that map. So current state of 5G, there's 375,000 plus approximate number of 5G cell sites in the United States. 305, that's already contradicting the last slide.
Yeah.
Totally missed that. Yeah, 305 million estimated number of Americans have access to 5G. So, you know what? I bet the other one was
just covered from the airport.
Yeah, just from the airports. Yeah, absolutely. Again, if you guys have any questions or I know I saw some carriers registered on here. So if you guys have any specific feedback or if, you want to brag about how much 5G coverage you guys have, feel free to drop that in the chat. All right. So how does 5G compare to traditional business internet? So fiber, cable, satellite, some of the existing ones. So let's talk fiber. What are you seeing here? Pros and cons?
Yeah. So fiber, obviously, we can just read off the slides, but it doesn't really give you the full spectrum. Fiber is great. It is a great connection source, but as many, if not everyone knows, it's not available or viable in all situations. You might have a small branch office location, which is what we typically see, especially as, we're coming out of the work from home area. We might be working in smaller offices away from HQ or however that ends up working. And trenching a fiber line is not always the most practical or feasible option. So 5G could definitely be, that connection source,
right,
primarily. And we're actually seeing some now that they'll run 5G as primary, and then we're going to talk later about cable, but they'll use that as a backup now, which just shows how things have been progressing.
Yeah, I mean, I've been with RCN for less than 2 years, and it was the other way around when I started.
It was the other way around a year and a half ago.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, like you said, the biggest thing is price, is time. Time for the rollout.
Yep.
Waiting for all those things. Whereas
3 months for
really?
a deployment in some cases, if not longer, if you include paperwork and all of that.
Right, and that also factors in, like, let's say you're expanding your business. Maybe if you wanted fiber, you have to be within X distance to the city, right? Whereas maybe real estate a little bit further out, it's going to be more affordable. It makes more sense to have a factory or something out there. A lot of advantages and things to consider with fiber.
Absolutely.
Let's see. Cable,
as we alluded to, we're seeing this more and more being used as the backup just because 5G is becoming faster than your typical coax connection. However, it is not as widely available as copper, traditional cable lines. They have been around much longer, but that's obviously the more coverage we get, the more it expands, the less of an issue this is becoming.
Right. I see new technology there on cons. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah. So, being in the sales department, we see a lot of pushback, if you will. 5G is a new technology and it needs to be proven still for many companies to completely ditch or use the cable as a failover solution.
Right.
Completely understandable. You can't lose money just by being the breakneck forefront of all technology. So we do come across quite a bit of not sure if we want to do 5G as our primary connection. Let's use it as backup for now.
Yeah.
And then we'll say, hey, try for a couple days, see what it's like. If you see much difference, we'll just use it as failover. If you see a vast improvement, let's talk about using it as your primary and the cable is fallback.
Yeah, I think a lot of it too is, a lot of people when they're on the road or whatever might hotspot, LTE or whatever from their phone. It's, not the same thing at all.
No.
Yeah, quite a bit different, but I can understand the thinking there. Cool. So compared to satellite, so no pot shots at Elon Musk here with Starlink, but Really, the only con to 5G is coverage.
Yeah.
Satellite really gets all over the place as long as it's a clear day. Um, yeah, and then you have all the benefits. I mean, speed is by far different. I'm sure most of you remember dial-up and satellite internet days, having dish and things like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's really that speed and the latency is what you're going to see a huge difference on. A lot of my customers that are switching from your satellite carriers are experiencing 15 megs second download, which is not fantastic.
Yeah.
Certainly not doing Netflix on that.
Right.
But switch over to 5G and they're like, oh my goodness, I'm getting 100 down or something. Varies by use case, but it's crazy how much exponentially faster 5G is compared to satellite.
Yeah, it's really wild. Cool. So yeah, I guess on another hand, Starlink is something that's up and coming in that field. It's really the first bit of advancement I feel like satellites had in quite a while.
First viable option in the modern modern day.
I don't know a ton about what they've been rolling out, but I think it's probably still a few years away from being viable in any sort of situation.
Mass scale, yeah. Obviously, limitations is going to be how many satellites you can put up in the sky, and how quickly.
Right.
They've got some zones, equatorial lines covered, while vast majority of us are not.
Yeah,
so.
Right, for sure. Cool. We've got some solutions kind of lined up, some 5G devices, but before we get to that, we were talking earlier, like what's a good reason? Obviously we outlined, some of the benefits comparing to, traditional means of internet, but what about customers that are on 3G? Is this still a good time for them to upgrade as well?
Absolutely, it would be a fantastic time because 3G is actually getting shuttered out. So not too many 3G devices are still out there until you start getting into your IoT space. A lot of your SCADA usages are still, a lot of them are on a 3G platform still. And many of my customers, more rural areas, are starting to experience like, hey, I have, entire sector down without any connection. We get service out there. What's going on? It's like, well, they're reallocating that 3G spectrum and remapping it, into their 5G platform, and it's just not a one-to-one anymore, and it won't work. So, 3G's on its way out. It's been around. It had a good run, but we're moving on to 5G.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. All right. So here's our first device. What can you tell me about the Cradlepoint W1850?
So the 1850 is going to be more of a modem type solution. It's a great little application for an existing network as a, like we said, failover, or as primary in this case. I actually have a number of clients using this exact device with their existing router solution. They'll plug it into their wireless router that they get from eBay or whatever, or their network setup that they have a rack and IT office and all of that, and it just propagates the signal through the APs that they already have, which is a beautiful setup. You don't have to worry about changing your entire infrastructure that is already installed and paid for. Instead, you can just use your 1850 and doesn't know the difference whether it's getting it from your fiber line or the 1850. Great if you have service wherever it's going to be installed. That's the only thing. You can add in external antennas, but you start getting degradation from that over certain distances. So, which leads us into the next one that we'll cover.
Yeah, let's take a look at it. 2005.
So this is the 2005. It operates very, very similarly to the 1850. However, this is going to be an outdoor rated model. So instead of having to route your external antennas or, do I have service in my IT closet? A lot of times they're, rebar reinforced concrete. You're not going to have, fantastic service. This is an all-in-one modem / external antenna. External directional antenna. So installation is going to be a little bit more on the upfront, but you're going to be able to point this device directly to the ideal tower and get your service that way.
Oh, nice. Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
This is kind of some of that strategy we're talking about with the propagation too of these waves, right?
Yeah. So if you're further out and you need something that's really going to kind of focus in on that, that tower that's a couple miles out, a few miles out, this is a fantastic route to go.
Awesome. All right. What do we got next? E300.
The E300 5G. So this is going to be kind of almost an all-in-one device. So it does have the modem just like the 1850 and the 2005 had.
Yeah.
However, it also has an onboard router solution as well. So you're going to have your Ethernet ports on the back. It does have Wi-Fi coming out of the box. So you are able to use it as, it's sitting in your small office, supporting, a couple, 10, 20 people maybe.
Yeah.
Your clients. So great all-in-one device, 5G capable. Again, able to use external antennas with it. It's a great little piece of equipment for those smaller use cases.
Okay, very cool. Yeah. And then I know we've got one more zero. Let's talk about the E3000 5G.
Yes. Just like the name implies, it's just the upgraded version of the 300. It's going to have, how I was alluding to, is in the smaller use cases. This is going to be a true enterprise solution. This is going to mount into your IT rack. It's going to be able to support twice as many clients, and that's, hyperbolic or estimated. I'm not sure. It can handle a lot more devices simultaneously and be able to push those speeds in a little bit faster because it has a faster processor.
Okay, very cool.
It's just that upgraded. Everything's just turned up to 11 on that one.
Nice. So what are some, I'm looking to see if we have any SEs on here that could give us some context on that. But while I'm looking, what are some differences? What type of business does it make sense for the E300 versus the E3000?
Yeah, it's really just kind of getting down to how many clients or devices that you're going to have running at the same time. That's the primary factor involved.
Okay.
We typically don't, want to put a 3000 in, a two-person office. That would be overkill.
Right.
Unless they're just doing some heavy lifting on many computers. The 300 though would be a perfect use case for that. If you have an enterprise though, that's, you're trying to support 40 workers and their phones and computers all at once, then I'm going to say, hey, let's take a look at this E3000. Let's see what that can really do for you. Both, with firewall, router, everything, we were able to compact everything into one package and be able to support your team that way.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome. I think that brings us to the We Can Help slide. I love this one. So we're 5G and LTE enablement specialists. As most of you already know, we specialize in 5G and LTE network solutions that enable our customers to connect better because we provide the right solution every time. So now that we're past those buzzwords, Jonathan, what do you tell your customers, that maybe are on the fence? It's like, hey, what's the value of RCN?
Yeah, absolutely. And that comes down to, we're not just box pushers. We don't want to be viewed as that kind of, we're the Amazon that you have to get a quote for.
Yeah.
We want to build something with you in mind that's tailored for your use case. And then on the back end of it, once you do receive this equipment that we worked, with you to get, we want to make sure that everything's supported. And that comes into this coming year. We're releasing our 5G knock, which we've had, many things about in the past, webinars and such. And that's going to be able to give you a bit more comfort and ease moving into 5G as primary, because who do you call when you have, an issue with a device currently? You call your carrier. Yeah. Because they have the, chances are you have the equipment from them and the service from them. So who do you go to? And that's where we fit in, is we want to make sure that we are the person that you call to help walk you through any issues that you're going to be having.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. No, the knock is going to be a game changer too. We should have that fully launched, I believe, close to the beginning of the year.
Yes.
So keep an eye out for that.
And thank you, Star. See you out there.
Looking forward to bursting through the ceiling with 5G speeds. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Cool. I had written some down just in case we didn't get any questions. If you guys feel free to drop any in there, that you think about. But so we talked about 3G sunset. When will 4G sunset?
We do not have any plans on 4G sunsetting anytime real soon. Any of my carrier friends out there could possibly answer that, but I don't think there are any plans from the carrier side that it's going to be sunsetting. So any of your 4G devices are still going to be operating. It's really just upgrading that. Yep, no plans.
No plans.
Thank you, Star. So 4G is here to stay.
Yep, awesome. Let's see, number 2. Is there a large library of 5G devices? So I like this question because we showed off 4 of them today. Is that kind of all there is, or?
No, there's plenty of other options. You don't have to stick with Cradlepoint, though we do like sticking with them as much as we can. They do have mobile solutions. So if you're having connectivity in your vehicles or on a mobile, like an mobile office type situation. They do offer a ruggedized, more mobile solution, the R1900. That's a phenomenal little device. It's kind of operates the same as the E300. Just think of that kind of piece of equipment, but more ruggedized.
Okay.
But yeah, then there's tons more that are about to be coming out. In the coming months and years for sure.
Yeah, I've seen a calendar of a few of them. I'm excited for it, but there's definitely solutions really for every use case, right?
Yeah. Wherever you want, connectivity, there's a 5G device for you.
Absolutely. Lastly, how much of the country is covered? That's the last question there. So refer to any of those numbers we threw out earlier.
Yep. Changes by the day. I couldn't give an honest percentage and not feel like I was lying to you, but especially on east of the Mississippi, there's great coverage, and then both coastlines are built out. Anywhere you don't get a whole lot of service, you might not have 5G yet, but
I mean, honestly,
it's working that way, like we were saying before, though, about that propagation. One tower is able to cover a little bit more. You get more out there.
Yeah, and it's basically population centers plus interstates plus places where the people are, right? It's going to start from there and then kind of trickle out to everywhere else. But I know we get it all over the place in Knoxville, across multiple carriers. So I mean, I think the time to make that jump is if not now, pretty soon, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Let's see. I saw, Tim also said no plans for LTE. Thanks, Tim. Hope we gave you guys a little bit of your day back. It's 2:26 now. So normally we go anywhere from half an hour to an hour. So this works pretty well. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to us on our website, on social media. Reach out to Jonathan on LinkedIn, or if you have his contact information already. I don't think it had your email on that first slide, did it?
I don't know.
No, I don't think it did. Reach out to him on social media, or just message us on LinkedIn and say, hey, I want to talk to Jonathan about getting 5G, and I'll get that right to him. Don't worry about that. But
daily alert.
Yeah, awesome. So I think we're good to go ahead and wrap up. Thank you guys so much for being with us today. Thank you for speaking with us as well, Jonathan.
Thank you all.
Any parting words for our audience?
No, I don't believe so.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for sticking with my hacking as we were going through it. But I hope everybody has a great rest of your day.